So welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show this Thursday morning, which is a bit miserable outside. British weather is always a little bit miserable, but even more so when it gets to October. I thought I'd have a bit of a play with my watercolours. I haven't played with them for a long time, and I miss doing them. And while I've been doing my colour book, I'm doing Inktober, but I'm not showing it. I'm just kind of doing it for myself. But I am doing quite a few sketches, different sketches of my mushrooms. I've got to be a bit careful I don't get things everywhere. So there's a few more different ideas popping up. And then I thought, well, actually I'm tackling this the wrong way, so I intend to do some watercolours of my mushrooms, and then I can kind of draw them out, if that makes any sense. So there'll be 30 some of those at the end of October, because I did quite a few to start with before. So I thought, oh, well, I need to practice with my watercolours, because I haven't used them for a long time, and sometimes you just kind of get a little bit out of practice. So I put out some colours, excuse me, my professional watercolours. So I've got, I think that one's Hansa Yellow. My brain's gone completely dead. Then I've got Lemon Yellow, Cadmium Yellow, Gamboge, Cadmium Red, and then I've got Crimson, Elysian Crimson, and then I've got Rose Lake, I think, French Ultramarine, Cobalt Blue, Cerulean Blue. This is kind of a very dark blue, which was Prussian Blue. Then I've got Hooker's Green, which is again a traditional colour that watercolours used to use. I've put my yellow ochre over here with the browns rather than with the yellows. There's raw umber and burnt umber, and a raw sienna, which again is a bit of a reddy colour. It's a warm, so I've got red and cold colours. Excuse me. So I've got cold yellows, warm yellows, cold reds, warm reds, cold blues, warm blues. I've got cold browns and warm browns, and I kind of like that, so it's not a bad set. Now I want to do a few washes on this practice paper. A long time ago somebody gave me a lot of these and I've never used them. They're kind of a promotional pack that has different colours of £140, which is 300 GSM. So there's white rough, oatmeal cream, eggshell blue, grey and white, and then on the other side we had a £300 weight, a £140 weight and a £90 weight. So this is about like thick card, this is medium, and then this is really stiff, like almost like a board, a watercolour board. So I thought I'd have a play, because of course I can play on one side, then turn it over and do a little kind of composition. So I'm going to use a wash. So although I'm going to use a lot of colours with a small brush, the watercolour washes really need to be in a well, because they would just flood off this. This is probably for oils or acrylics. It's not really meant for watercolours, but it will dry on here, and I've got a big mixing palette space because I didn't have a lot of space here. So my washes for I can make a big wash for my skies and from my backgrounds, that I use with the big brushes. Now next week I intend to set a few of these down where you stretch them, and then you can use them wet on wet, and they're not going to crinkle. And you put them on a board and you wet them, and then you to tape them down. So I shall do a demonstration of that next week, and then I shall start painting watercolour paintings. But because I'm really out of practice, I'm going to play, because there's no point starting on proper watercolour paper, which I've got out, until I've practiced, because it's a long time since I've done it, and I will be making mistakes. But hopefully by next week it'll have ironed out. So I'm going to be doing some more watercolours for my little mushroom scenes. So we've got three different grades of paper, and we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 different colours. And I don't think that's as rough. So if you can see, there's a slight difference. This is rougher than this one. It's extra rough. Now I normally paint on extra fine because I like to have a lot of detail, but if you like that lovely watercolour paper, almost like a canvas, that's rough, then this is what we have here. So as I said, this is the practice. Now I do have some different brushes. I think these are a little bit cheaper. These are about £10. These are Royal Langnickel rounds, and there's a couple of filibuts there, and then some flats. And so it's not a bad set, and again, these have still not been used, but this one is just as fluffy as this one. So you would use this for a wash, and use the bigger one across. But if you wanted just 3 brushes and a couple of riggers, that shouldn't break the bank. I'd had these actually in a box of art paints that I wanted from eBay. Now I have a bigger one that I must have bought along the way, so I've got a bigger one, but I think this will be fine for this size. And I haven't got a traditional cloth, I've just got a baby wipe, so I may have to struggle with this one yet. I may have to use tissues. An old tea towel probably would be good, or a hand towel, because it will soak up some water. So I had a little bit of a play here. So that was kind of how I normally use it with a small brush. That was watered down, and then I did a little bit of a wash. I wet the paper first, and so you have this gorgeous soft effect. So I thought I'd have a bit of a play with that. Just have to make myself a little bit of room, because by putting these on a flat palette, they're prone to get kind of squashed and touched, and they will remain sticky, whereas if you put them in here, they would have remained safe if you happen to touch the top. They won't run, but they will remain tacky because they are professional watercolours, and they keep their tackiness for some reason. It's to do with the binder. They have the least binder, so whereas others like this one is student grade, and they are still well pigmented. Oopsie, sorry, lovely. Poltergeist. This is also a good set because it's got the same colours that I've put out, almost identical. And these are hard. Apart from these two, they're a bit tacky, and these will remain dry because it's the binder. So there's less pigment in these than there are in these, but they're still very, very, very good quality. The same with the Hydrus. The Hydrus, they are all dry, but they're tacky, so they're not going to run anywhere, but they are tacky. Now, if you first put them out, these have been in here probably 6 months, maybe more, they would run off because they are a liquid watercolour. So once they are dried, and you can see the drops that I've been putting on there, there's probably about 6 or 7 drops there now. So there's tons of colour there. They're just left to dry, so they're not going to run anywhere, but if you touch them, they'll probably be a little bit tacky. Because again, it's the binder. There's a lot of pigment in here. Pigment is colour. So the more expensive your paints normally means the most pigment, less binder. and it's the binder that dries out. Apologies, I've woken up with Thursday's cough for my for my stream. So I'm going to have a bit of a play here, and it is a play. I haven't played with watercolours for maybe 6-7 years, maybe a long time. So not in this way, the traditional way. So we'll do this little one first. We'll do the front, and then you can get a feel. So Hubbub is okay, so thank you for stopping by. So you do need a lot of water. So I've got one that I'm going to wash out, and then one I'm going to use for clean. So every time I've got paint on, I'll have to go in here, dry off, and then use this as clean. You must have clean water for watercolours. It's one of the biggie golden rules. Now I am going to take a little bit off there, and then stroke across, and this is why you need really nice. Oh, it's not going to stay down, is it? No. This is where you need, and you want a really nice, good, even coating, and it's always easier to either go across. You don't really want to go down, you want to go across. You could to start with, but then you want to go across. So that's all even. So I've got two brushes here. I've got a 12 and a 0, and when I wet them you'll see what happens to them. This is why they're no good in a colour book, because they just hold water, and when you touch them the water just comes straight out, because that's what they're designed to do. So you want to work really wet, so you couldn't do this in a colour book. So what do I want? I could try just the smallest amount of blue, and you see you get this most gorgeous effect, and a touch of a different blue. Now you probably could maybe do the background in with a bigger brush, actually. Probably use the edge, pick up some colour, and we do want it to be mixed really, so and then a little bit of, and you really need to mix it. And by going up and down you get a very pale, it's terribly pale is that, but I quite like that. That's a really soft background. So this one I'll do a bit bigger. So wash the brush out in one side, dunk in the clean water, and we'll do the same. Sometimes it's better probably to, oh no, I've got to move this because and you can always see, if you look towards the light, you can see how even it is. Oops, oh, I've never used these brushes, so they're a bit kind of, so take off a little bit of water, and I'll probably put some water in here. Look, I'll do it like this. So we're making a wash. Oopsie, there's two huge big dogs outside, so apologies, there might be a bark alert in a second. You see that it's buckled because it's not stuck down. If that was stuck down it wouldn't buckle. Now I have to keep talking so that my little monster below can't hear what's going on. So this is how wet you use it. Now I have actually taken it down below the waterline, but Oopsie. And again, your brushes eventually will stop losing hairs. It's just, and the cheaper the brushes, you're better buying 2 or 3 brushes of good quality than a pack of 10. So when it comes to watercolour, sometimes quantity is not good. So that probably would have been a bit darker than that. The other thing you can do while it's wet is, and I actually have what this hanging about. Oops, it's not there. I popped it somewhere. So cotton wool, tissue, and what you can do is dab off. You can't tell too much. We've got just a very faint clouds. And again, that's really faint, but of course that's because I'm not used to this. If I put that up there, it should dry. It won't dry flat because I haven't stuck it down, but it'll be kind of dry. Oopsie. Now, I'm probably going to have to just disappear in a second and get a proper cloth, because you do need a proper cloth. So that's very, very weak. So let's have a look. Rinse in one side, dunk in clean water. And I think we're going to take a little bit of the French ultramarine. Now, French ultramarine normally is for, so it, oopsie, let me just try that quickly. So this one is £300 again. Now I need to wet that first. I forgot, you've got to wet it first. If you want that really lovely smooth transition, you need to be wet on wet. So you need wet on wet. So that means that you are putting wet, runny watercolour, oopsie, on a wet page. Now again, to stop it popping up like this, you should stick it down really, but this is just a practice. So then I have my colour on here. Just go to the imaginary horizon line, either just below or just above the middle, not really anywhere else. And then if you want it to be a bit more dramatic, get some more colour in there. And this is where you do wash the colour away, but not too much. And then we'll just have yellow ochre. It's always a really nice colour, is yellow ochre for a background. What you don't really want, I should have left a gap in the middle there, you don't really want to touch them, because where you touch them they will run together and form a green, because you've got a yellow and a blue. Oops. But I can live with that. Really, really soft colours. Remember, it's a background. You're going to be building on it, so you really, and to stop that curl, which it's curling, you wouldn't do that if it had been wet first and then stuck down. So you have a beautiful flat surface. So that's why you do the prep first. But as I say, this is just a practice. So I have 2 colours in here now, and again I have to wash the brush. And you could even have 3 pots. You could have one for very dirty water, clean it, dry it off, and then do another one, and then you can have a final one which is pure white water, pure clear water, because it doesn't take much to contaminate your colours. And these are different colours. So this is, I'll do the white one next. So we'll do this one across. Now I can cut this paper off, but I just wanted to show how to do it. I want to keep the backs clean if I can. So there's another way to do it, which is, this is dry, and we can go in here, pick up some more of that cerulean blue. So this is wet on dry, and again, if you wanted to do this, you could really do it, and then what you want to do is leave a slight gap. So again, you could put more, be a bit more dramatic, build up colour. Use a clean kitchen roll to have a few clouds. Not very convincing clouds. Again, I haven't done clouds for a while. So, and remember, with watercolour, less is more. Always less is more. So if I want to then put, again, clean the brush. And pure white, pure clear water. And the yellow ochre. Now leave a gap. It doesn't make any difference, you can fill it later, but you want a tiny, tiny, tiny gap, and then your colours will not run together. So I can hold mine down, and again, I don't like this, but it will do. Now if you waited for the blue to dry, you could go right up to that line, but you don't really want to mix it. And you could be a lot stronger. I'm just using really, really soft colours. So I've got kind of a skyline, and I've got a bit of a wash. And then you would probably dry that with a hair dryer. Oopsie. Now really, really heavy paper won't probably do that. So this one will not buckle, because this is £300, so it's almost like a card. So this one shouldn't. So we'll just do a quick practice on the front. So clean the brush. And then clean water. And it makes a difference. So if you can see, that's getting dirtier, then I'm dunking in here, and then I'm going in here for my clear water. So this is perfectly clear, this is getting dirty. And it will do, so you probably have to find that you, if you didn't want to get up and about, you need a bucket and a jug of water. So I'm going to wet this first, and you can see that it's not going to go anywhere. There's hardly any buckle. That's because it's a really, 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 really thick, proper, professional watercolour paper. Very, very tough, very thin, and this is rough as well. So, but again, soak the paper. We want that lovely soft transition. And so if you can see my paints there, so I've got a wet brush, probably not wet enough. Add some paint in here. You need to mix it to a wash, otherwise you'll get marks. And then it's straight across. Now if you were doing a waterfall, you might want to go down, but most water goes across. It's only when you're putting reflections and things that you want to go up and down, but to get that lovely smooth transition. So if you're doing a high sky, you want more sky. If you're doing a low light, but you want to be excuse me, you want to be either just above the line or just below. Never put your horizon in a silly place, too high or too low. And then we want to put so if you think of your page as thirds, so mentally divide it into 3. So that's a third, and the top's a third. Your horizon wants to be in that middle third, either high or low or somewhere in between. But it doesn't want to be up there and it doesn't want to be down here. And so we've got that lovely transition from blue. It's a bit boring, is that? It's not very strong, but again, I'm out of practice. So if you're not happy, just go back in there. And then clean kitchen paper, so this isn't, but fluffy clouds, big clouds, small clouds, whatever colour clouds you want. And this is rather a small piece of paper as well. Oops, I've got some, I must have touched the red there, so it depends what you want to colour, doesn't it? You see? So that probably could be a wall. Could make that. I did catch that paint quite a lot actually. There's quite a lot in there, so we can squeeze that out. That might come in handy. Again, clean the brush, make sure it's really clean. And you see, because it is curling, even this one is so thick, it's still curling, you've got the dribble at the bottom. So what you can do is take a dry clean brush and just take it off. That was a bit wet actually. That's a drier brush. You can just take that off. That's why it's always a good idea to lay it down flat first, because it'll curl and then you'll get an edge on everything. So there's just a few clouds on there. I didn't actually use a clean cloth. And it's not a very strong colour, isn't that? But just got a couple of clouds. Remember, less is more. Excuse me. So pop that one up there. Oops. I'm hoping they're going to dry because I put them on my lamp. So I'm going to go steal a tea towel. A tea towel. I think I've got some old tea towels somewhere. And that red was quite strong, so my water's getting dirty, but that's remaining clean because I'm not going to go in there unless my brush is clean, and then that's just to start again. So you could have a very large dish bucket, because you do tend to go through a lot of water. Remember, this is watercolouring. This is how you do it professionally. Well, I'm practicing at the minute, but there's a few techniques in here that this is how you do it traditionally, sorry, should I say. Oh, hi Melody, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Whoops. And it's curled, you see? It's curled. To stop that curling, you need to flatten up, see, and you would do that. I've just dropped it in the yellow. Probably wasn't a good idea to put it in a flat palette, but I wanted to play with, I'm out of practice, so I wanted to play. So this is how your colours are going to look if you're doing backgrounds. Now probably I've now got a little bit of blue there and I've got a darker one there, so I can play with that. Again, my brush hasn't been used, so it's you're always better to play, because your brushes always lose a few bristles when you first start to use them. It's a bit like when you're decorating. So let's have a look. This is a bit thinner paper, but we can do a background on here. And again, it is just a practice. And you wouldn't have to hold it down either, so again, you've got to make sure you don't have any colour in your brush, because it will come out on there. Let me have a look. Let's do it a different way. No, I don't really want to do that. I'll put a colour on all these and then we'll see. See if we can have a bit more of a dramatic sky. This is going to be a bit more dramatic. So you see, the more practice, the braver you get, so the better the idea. Now, with watercolour, you have to kind of go for it. You can't be wishy-washy, because you'll make a complete pig's ear of it. It's one of the most difficult to do, I think. Now, I use it in a very silly brush, different way. I use it in a different way than most people, but if you want, there's a lot of watercolourists out there. So again, a dry tissue or kitchen roll. Kitchen roll is best, although I think Nancy used to use toilet paper. So we've got one or two fluffy clouds there. And if you really want a real white one, you take everything off. So you can really kind of make them fluffy or whatever shape you want. See, I'm getting a bit braver now. You must make sure your brush is completely clean before you put it in your clean water. Otherwise, watercolouring does not work. Now, it started to run down here, so I think I'm going to have, I do like my yellow ochre, so I've got to be a bit careful I don't catch that red. Put that into there. And then I'm going to kind of stop a bit short if I can. So I've just got a few fluffy clouds. And then you go in with your other brushes a bit later. This is the first stage. This is doing a wet on wet background. which again you should really do when it's on a board, but it does take a day to dry out, possibly a day and a bit, depending on where you live. I normally do the unthinkable, and I actually supposed to do it flat, but I kind of lean them up against the radiator, but that's really not the way to do it. But if you're practicing and it's not professional watercolour paper, now I will say that the cheaper the paper, the worse it is. You can't do this on cartridge, you can't do it on printer paper. Even the £90 one, as I'm going to show you, it doesn't really like it. It's got to be probably 300 GSMs, £140 is the best. The thicker one, I think, is just say the thicker one. Oops, the thickest one is 600, the £300. That's almost like a board, but it's still curled because I didn't stick it down. I didn't stretch it first. So we'll do this one next. Now this is going to curl very quickly, and you'll see how difficult it is. If you'd stuck this down, if you'd stretched your paper first, it wouldn't actually stun. It would just about get away with it. I have done it on thinner paper, but it wants to curl up because it's saturated. So we'll put this on here. My brush is separated, so again that's not particularly good. Hopefully all the hairs are going to come out for next time. So where it's curling, I'm getting some buckle, but again this is just practice. Make sure I've got rid of all that blue, and it's really easy to touch a different colour. It's very easy. And then we've got the brown here. Just going to leave it short because I don't want it to mix. And if we want some more clouds, and if you leave it kind of unscrunched, you're going to get a different type of cloud. If you make a big lump and dab, you're going to get a bigger effect. I kind of like a little bit of difference. And again, less is more with the clouds as well. You want just some subtle differences. You can always go back in and darken them and play with them later. Remember, we're working from light to dark, so this is the lightest tones. We've now got our whites and we've got our palest tone. The next one will be a step darker, and again that's the traditional way to do these watercolours. I'm not going to use these coloured ones now. I shall use them later for something else. So I'll just dry that off there. Now, again, the tissues are looking a bit drab, so it's time to go and get an old tea towel. So bear with me a second. Alfie wants to watercolour. Do you want to watercolour? Come on, down, good boy. Good boy. Alfie, where do you sit? Come on. Come on. Good boy. Alfie wants to watercolour. That's a reel. So, any cloth will do. All you need to do is you want to be able to kind of dry it if you need to dry it, or wet it if you need to wet it. The best one is toweling. Toweling is always best, I think. Right, so yes, good boy, Alf. When he's good, he's very good, and when he's bad, he's horrid. I think that's the best description of our Alf. Although most of the time, I don't think he's ever good. So I'm just going to do this. I'm not sure if this will dry. Now, I do have a heat gun. I've had one a long time, and I haven't used it. But I'm going to put this. I think I might leave this on here. Hopefully, this is quite clean. I think that should be on that side. No. I'm going to change my water's place. You have to be comfortable and you have to be organised. I'm not really sure about a full pot of water next to my laptop, but never mind. Never mind. So I can put that on here. And then let's have a quick tidy. So the colours are here. And I can pick that up when I want to. Right, so what have I got that's big enough to go under there? I don't think there's anything really. I really don't need anything underneath it because it will damage it, but I can't think of anything, so we'll have to tear that out. Now, I think this is probably, oopsie. Oh dear, I can't do this. Oh, I know. Let's just see if I can. Oh my goodness me, I can't, so I'll just. Take the whole thing off. That's it. Take that. I'm sorry about this. I have to take all this off. Couldn't tear it, so it's obviously really good paper. Is this? What does it say? It's 300G. It's only 300, but it's actually quite good. And I couldn't tear it, so I took it off its board. So I'll put that back together again a bit later. I'm just wondering if I have a board about. I don't think I have a board. I don't know why I don't have a board, but just because it's going to buckle this, but it doesn't really matter. So again, if you want a nice soft effect, Delilah. Oh, you have a naughty Delilah, do you? Well, Alfie, the minute I get up, he's there, even if it's for a minute. They're wonderful. Alfie's not really that wonderful, bless him. I'm going to do the top, I think, leave that bit at the bottom. So I've got a blue. I'm just trying to think what I want to do. I think I might use this one right now. So what I want to do first is sketch out a little bit of something. I'm not going to do line and wash. I'm going to just do a little bit of I think. So I think I'm going to have a kind of a pale green background. Maybe a little bit of sky. So I kind of want, whoopsie, we kind of got these and again, I've not done this before, so I'm sure it's going to be a learning curve. Don't know if that's showing up, but we're going to do some odd shaped mushrooms, and I think we'll do some little diddy ones here. So sorry about the shadow. Yeah, it's a bit naughty, that shadow, isn't it? Sorry about the shadow. See if I can get rid of it. Hopefully that's not quite as bad. So I think we'll just do and I'm not sure if this is probably a little bit too maybe a little bit too dark. I could have, suppose, made it line and wash, couldn't I suppose? And then we'll have got to just a rough few mushrooms on there. Oh, bye Jane, thank you for stopping by. Have a good afternoon, morning, depending on where you are on the planet. It's just coming up to 11:30 UK time, so so don't have much space for brambles, but we're going to have I do like a bit of a border across the top, I have to say. Do like a border, so really quick. And then something that I used to do, and I haven't done it for a while, is use an eraser. I'll just put that little one there. It's kind of, so I'm going to have one going down there, one across there, but I may have three, I think. So we've got kind of this thing going on. So I can draw it out first. And there's a bit of a mark on there, but I'm hoping that's not going to bother. So we'll draw this out. And then what we have to do really, depending on your style, if you want it kind of really wishy-washy, then, oh, I shouldn't say wishy-washy, very soft pastels, then you really want to go all over every pencil line and rub it out, so you've just got a hint of your design or your drawing. But because I think I'm going maybe a bit stronger, and then we can kind of put that. And obviously there'll be berry. Now this takes a little bit of time to draw out. So this is the boring bit. Then we can kind of just bring that down there. We'll have another one sprouting off. And again, you can actually see this fairly strong pencil drawing, and it obviously tails off down here. So if this was a real bramble, this would be kind of really heavy now. With brambles, and the berries are getting heavy, so they kind of, and then we could have two. And I've started to do more digital work because unfortunately this is oh dear, I should have done it with a fat pencil. I think I should have done it with a fat pencil. we've kind of got this going on now. And this is normally where brambles kind of branch off and there's so much going on the end of the so we have these and some will be red underripe, some will be red, some will be kind of a greeny colour, and some will be purple, but I think I kind of like them all purple, so artistic license. Oops. So this is just to kind of fill the page and have it looking, and it's also nice to have some going behind others as well. So again, because brambles kind of grow like that, they don't normally grow in the right place. And sometimes these are a bit smaller. But I think I'm going to make this kind of more whimsical. We'll see how it turns out. I have no idea how it's going to turn out because I haven't done this. Well, I've never done, I don't think I've ever done this before, so it's going to be it's going to be quite interesting what happens. So we'll put that one in next. We'll just have one last one down there then. So we've got quite a few brambles on that one. I think I do things in threes, so I'll stop the video here and I'll just finish off drawing another 3 brambles, and then when I come to do the wash I shall be part 2. So that's where we are so far. If we can see, you have some mushrooms and some brambles. So thank you for watching.